Hello, and welcome to the podcast It's the Love of God for Me, hosted by none other than Lenisha, a former non believer turned into a believer of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Subscribe on Apple and Spotify for weekly mind blowing interviews, actionable tips, powerful revelations, and spiritual strategies that will transform your lives daily. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump right into our daily dose of practical spiritual food.
I know we live in a world where, for the most part, Christians are hated, or Christians are that group that the moment we hear the word Christian, many of us will either get agitated or will probably put up a wall because of maybe your personal experience with this group. Maybe people that you know personally that is a part of this community, the Christian community that is, that have dealt with you in such a way that you just don't really believe in the word Christianity. Because when you hear that word, you think about that experience that you had with someone who said they were Christian. I know we live in a time where it seems like the church, or what the values and the morals that the church used to stand for, is now being watered down and diluted. And it almost seems like Christianity is becoming a joke to many people. I know that there has been times when people, for example, encounter people who say they're Christians and they say one thing but they don't practice what they say. And sometimes these people are people that are close to us, or family members or neighbors, things like that, or co-workers. And just how they behave is like, even if you meet a genuine Christian, you can't tell the difference, because that experience again has shaped your narrative of what you think Christianity is about, or how you view Christians. And I could go on and on about that. I know we live in a time when, out of all the quote-unquote religion in the world, Christianity is the least valued and respected amongst all of them. It's easier to say you're a Muslim. It's easier to say that you are a Catholic. I mean, it's so much easier to say you're a part of other Christian. Bear with me today, guys, because this one is heavy for me. It's easier to say that you're a part of other religion and don't feel any type of way about that. But when you have to stand and declare your faith, especially among people who don't understand it, cannot comprehend it, and again may have had bad experiences in the past with other people claim that they're Christians, and so that just shape a whole opposite mindset of what Christianity truly means. And I'm not here to justify the Christian community. I know that for the most part of it, it's our fault. I mean, we can point the fingers on the kingdom of darkness and the devil all we want, but a lot of us as Christians, we play a major role in why we are rejected so much, or we're the least likable among all the religions out there. Though within the Christian community, we don't look at our faith as religion, because we know religion is what you do in the name of the God you believe in, but salvation is what God has done for us. And we know Christianity is the only message out there that teaches you that God loved you enough to become man and die for your sins. So it's basically God's gift to man, completely different. But for conversation's sake, I will say religion, because that's how many people look at Christianity, as a religion. We play a major role in why it's so hard to reach unsaved sometimes, or unbelievers sometimes. It's the things we proclaim but we don't live by. And our failure to be transparent when it comes to this walk with Jesus, to be honest with ourselves, and really not afraid to let the world see the struggles, the hardship it takes to be a Christian. And so I want to take the time out from a personal standpoint to talk about some of the things that nobody really see when it comes to a follower of Jesus Christ or a Christian. Because I know that we have put on a facade over the years. I know that we like to look polished and sound polished. And then when our flaws and struggles and sometimes us needing deliverance and having that stronghold that we have not break free from start to show and start to manifest, it send off a different signal or perception of what we claim that we stand for. But if we can just be more honest with ourselves and the world, because nobody really see or talk about how hard it is to be a Christian, a real Christian, someone who believe in what they preach and fight to stand by that. Nobody really sees the sacrifices that a person who is true to Christianity sometimes have to make. Sometimes we lose a lot. We just don't talk about it. Because a real Christian will tell you our aim, our goal is to glorify Jesus. It's so that he can be seen. And us, we're hidden in him. So our will is lost in him. Our desires are lost in him. Everything about us is hidden in him. What you don't see is the battles that a true Christian fight. Battles with themselves, battles with their wills, battles within the household, sometimes in the marriage, sometimes in ministry. Not to mention the kingdom of darkness. When I say battles in their household, I'm not talking a physical or verbal fight. I'm just talking about the challenges that comes with standing firm on your morals, your values, your faith in God, and not break into that under pressure. I'm talking about, for example, having family members whom don't subscribe to your belief, and in your attempt in trying to help them and trying to get them to see that this is the truth, Jesus Christ is real and he's coming back again, sometimes that in itself is a battle, because you then come off sometimes as superstitious, too religious, and all that stuff. No one really talks about the challenges in almost every environment that a true believer has to go. Sometimes they can't catch a break because it would seem like everywhere they go, oftentimes if they're not there with someone who really is truly walking with Jesus, they can feel like the odd one in the group, the strange one, the weird one, the closed-minded one. Because even in the church sometimes, a true Christian can feel lonely, especially when they can't find someone whom really split the line between righteousness and unrighteousness, darkness and light, the way of God and the way of the devil. Nobody really noticed how lonely it is to be a Christian. It's very lonely. Sometimes the closest to you, like maybe your spouse, your children, your mother. I talked to a young lady recently who told me that sometimes she wished she could sit and talk with her mom about her supernatural encounters that she's having. But she can't because her mom will not understand them. So sometimes, it gets really lonely. It gets so lonely. It's hard to be a Christian. And unless you are a true Christian by heart, not just by words, but by heart, you would agree with what I'm saying. It's hard when you have to daily get up and sacrifice your will. You have to sacrifice self. And you might say, Lanisha, why is it so extreme? Why do you have to sacrifice yourself and your will? Doesn't God want us to live with our free will? This episode is not to dive into the depth of those things because it's a lot to talk about. But in a nutshell, I will say that that's what the gospel is all about. Jesus said, if you love me, deny yourself, pick up your cross and follow me. To deny yourself means to deny your way of thinking, your way of what you think is best for you, your desires. It's really to deny the things that you think is the best things, the things that you maybe really want, and to follow Jesus. An example of this is a job that you always wanted and finally you get it, a job that's paying you a lot of money. And let's say the Lord speak to your heart, or he gives you an encounter and he says, I want you to leave that job and start ministry full time with no plan. God don't tell you his plans, how you're going to get through that financially. he doesn't give you that part of it. He just tell you leave your job, and you have to walk in that in trust and in faith. And I could go on and on because there's just so many things to unpack here. I just want to say that from a person whom is trying my best to walk this walk, and Lord knows I've fallen so many times I cannot count. There are moments I do question why God called me to this path, because it just doesn't make sense to me sometimes. And I say that because of the many times I've fallen and disappointed the Lord or people around me that expect me to live up to the word. It's hard to be a Christian. It's very hard. Sometimes in you trying to do good, in you trying to win souls, you end up destroy them. Sometimes because of the way you deliver, or maybe your delivery when it comes to the gospel, you can become an hindrance for somebody else. I mean, it's so hard. And from a personal standpoint, it's even harder when you don't have the support of the people that you really wish you had. Maybe your parents or your best friends, and it's hard when you have to lose a lot of things because of your faith. It gets really hard when you can't live by your own free will anymore. And not that you're being forced, but in your love for God and your desire to subscribe to the things of God, you choose to submit that will to God. It's hard to submit your will to God. It's hard. It's hard. Sometimes you feel like you can't catch your breath because every time you want to rest mentally, emotionally, here comes another battle somewhere. It's hard when you know in your heart that the coming of the Lord is near and you're not even sure if you're in right standing with God, because sometimes He doesn't tell you that. It's hard when you don't know how this journey will end. And if all the sacrifices you have made, somehow God will see that and remember that and honor that. Or maybe your bad outweigh the good and you just don't make it. And you sacrifice so much and you still didn't make it. It's really hard. It's hard when sometimes you get so upset and you say things that you really didn't want to say, but you said it because you were angry and you're human and you have feelings and you have emotions, and now you're looked at as a fake Christian. You're looked at as an hypocrite because you were being your human self. It's hard when you're being classified as the bad experiences that people may have had with other Christians like yourself. It's hard when people hurt you, insult you, verbally abuse you, or even physically abuse you, betray you, talk about you, and then you can't defend yourself because the way you're going to defend yourself is not Christ-like, right? And even if you try to do it in a godly manner, if you're not assertive enough, that won't work out well. And if you get assertive, you're told that's not how a Christian should be. It's a lonely road to walk. Took a while for me to accept that. I've lost a lot of things along the way. A lot of people. I've lost things that meant a lot to me. I had to look persons in the eyes that once when I looked in their eyes, I could see that love. And no, it's like it's not there anymore. And that played a role because of my faith. I mean, I've lost a lot along the way. It's a lonely road. And we're not perfect. Forgive us if we gave you that impression. Forgive us if we pretended like we were better than you and that we have never sinned and that we were born holy and sanctified and we don't do the things you have done, because many of us, God pick us out of the muck, the trench. He pick us out of the miry clay. We were a nobody, probably even worse than you and what you have done. And it's the grace of the Lord that is changing us, working on us to perfect us back into his image the way he created us initially. And when I'm talking about image, I'm talking about his essence, his character, his nature as a God. So I'll end by saying, again, it's hard to be a Christian. And I'm asking you guys for more grace for this community. Yes, we need to learn to give you more grace too. We need more grace from you too. I mean, I know people are going to go in scriptures and talk about what the disciples suffer and Jesus suffer, but listen, my grandmother always tell me 7 brother, 7 different mind. It's not everybody can endure a Jesus journey or Apostle Paul journey or Peter journey. Not every one of us know God to that depth that we can survive that. Some of us were hanging on by a thread because we're lonely, we're tired, we're scared about our destiny. Like, we don't even know sometimes if we're walking in purpose. We're the least among those who know us personally, even though we pray for them more than anybody else in their life prayed for them. It's just so much that we go through that we hide behind the pulpit, behind the mic, behind the pew. And this is just a small clip I wanted to share with you today. I don't think this will change for the most part 90% or 50% or even 20% of people who view Christians this way. But I hope just hearing my authentic heart and self and views on this, I hope that it will change the perspective of one. Thank you for listening, by the way. And I'll see you next week, Tuesday, at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of It's the Love of God for Me. I'm your host, Venetia. God bless.